I had lightning knockout. A very pleasant good Friday morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition, a Week 10 edition of the Morning Huddle here from First Financial Bank. And we're joined now by head football coach, athletic director Brian Hewlett of the Eastland Mavericks. And Coach, I guess first of all, hard to believe that we are already in Week 10. It seems like just the other day we were here at the end of August getting ready for game number 1 during Week 0.
Yeah, they fly by in a hurry, and that's what you try to explain to your kids and talk to your kids about and tell them take each one as it is. Don't take them for granted, and it's take them one at a time because it'll be over before you know it. And then as like I said, we're already here.
And it's been a very good year so far. We're sitting at 9-0 on the season, and we're going to talk about a big game coming up tonight out at Maverick Stadium a little bit later on. But first of all, let's go back to a week ago and a game that, boy, it was a funny game. Got down by 2 touchdowns early, battled back, tied it, and found ourselves down by 2 touchdowns again in the second half.
Yeah, I just couldn't. I think you got to look at it 2 perspectives. One, it's like I was talking to Mr. Dale Baker about before we got on air. You first of all got to give credit to the opponent. I think Comanche's a good team. I think they played well. They lost a tough one the previous week at Clyde, which a game they really could have, should have won, but didn't. And then they're returning home on their last home game, senior night, and they played well. They had a lot of energy. They played physical. They got after it and did some good things. But then on the other side of things, I think you look that we helped them quite a bit. They won the toss and took the ball, and I'm sure with hopes of taking one of those 8-10 minute drives and getting the lead, and we 3-and-out them, and then promptly turn around and give them a turnover. Next play, they score on a short field, and we fumble the kickoff and give them a shorter field, and they score. And before we know it, we're down 14-0.
Definitely the way we sort of thought things might go. They win the toss, they elect to receive. They're going to try to grind the clock and put points on the board, but defense steps up, does a great job, and at that point, everything swung in our favor until that first snap of the first offensive series.
Yeah, just probably overall bad play design, bad play called by me, and just it was dumb, and put us behind the 8 ball. I'm not going to sit here and say I think our defense played great, but I think we played pretty darn good. And you looked in the night, you see giving up 34 points, but I think on 4 of those drives they had to go a collective 83 yards. And so just like you said, they take the advantage, or they want to take the advantage by taking the ball, and then lo and behold, we just take it all away from them by 3-and-out them, and have every opportunity to turn that game into I'm not going to say our game, but playing it for how we want it to, and from the lead and our style, and they take it away from us.
Coach, being down 14, then early on, started reminded me a little bit of the Grandview game where we got behind early and battled back. Then to come back out in the second half and once again fumble another kickoff and give them an extremely short field, I think at the 11, and they go up by 7. And then following, and all 28 of their points in regulation come off turnovers. It was a very daunting task for the defense with all those short fields.
We talked about that. We went in half and sat there and were able to look at each other and just kind of fix a few things and change a few things. But the good part was to say, hey, all right, we've played a half. We'd like to be up by as many as we could have been, but all in all, it's a 0-0 game, and we get the ball to start the second half. Let's go out, take care of business, get down the field, go up a touchdown, and make them press and play from behind. Well, lo and behold, we fumble it, and they return it, and they got to go 11 yards for the score, and and then it just kind of, I don't know, a little hazy in the third quarter, and just don't take care of business. Turn the ball over again. Come up with several key stops to just hang us in there. But at one point, being down 28-14 with 5, 6, 7 minutes to go, it was one of those situations that, afraid you're going to run out of time or not have enough time or possessions, but our kids just hung in there.
Well, of course, one thing about the offense of the Eastland Mavericks, we can score very quickly, and that was evident on Friday night.
Yeah, we actually on our last one in regulation, we tried to slow it down and not score as quick, and really scored quicker than we wanted to. But so I've heard some people talk about why would you go for it on why would you go for it on 4th and 5 from around the 50 with 4 or 5 minutes to go. That's why I said we have the ability to score from. I think the last possession, the first half, we scored from 97. And I don't think it probably took us more than 2 minutes or so. So just knowing they wanted to grind the clock out and keep it from us, we really don't worry about time. When we get the ball, we feel like we can get to the other end as fast as need to. It's just we worry about being successful, making plays happen, and making first downs and yards, and we'll take care of that time.
You mentioned it was senior night down there. They had a big crowd, and their crowd was really into it for the biggest part of the game. I heard a lot of grumbling in the stands about their time management, where they let the clock expire at the end of the first half and again in the second half, wanting them to keep going for it in that situation. But that's just not their style.
That's not their game, I mean, you look at that's what they do. They were in the game and they were ahead of us because of what they do. And they're not going to go somewhere fast. That's just they're not set up that way. So I really don't understand that. It's just
the fans not knowing.
Yeah, I guess so. It's that's what they're set up to do. If my hope nobody gets mad at me saying this. My all-time favorite college football team was 1985 Oklahoma Sooners, and it was double tight, wishbone every play. Well, then their next couple of years, they ran into Miami as a nemesis, and anytime OU got behind the Miami, they're in the bone. They can't go 80 yards in 3 minutes. They're not set up to do it.
Right.
But if you're ahead, you're not set up to stop them. I think classic example. Another example is if you watch that Stanford Oregon game last night. Stanford's ahead. They can just grind the clock out, get 3 yards, convert 4th and 1s, 3rd and 1s, and stay ahead. But if Stanford ever got behind and had to go the length of the field, it would have been a lot more difficult. So just different styles, and and that's not what they do.
Roberts, running back, he had a big night running the football. We go into overtime, score on our first possession of overtime, and you don't even go to the swing gate. You right away go for 2. What was your thinking on that one?
I think I should have done it in regulation, and that was probably my fault. Should have just tried to end it there, but I kind of wavered on the thought, they're going to have a minute 45. I know they're not built to go fast, but that is enough time with a couple of timeouts if they hit one big run right off the bat, and we had to press, and they had a good kicker. So that's the reason we didn't do it in regulation. I just felt like we had a play or 2 or 3 that we could have gone to score, and I thought it really would take the momentum away from them, because not only have we scored a touchdown, now we scored a 2-point that they've got to get to 2. So you're pressing a little bit more there, and even if they do come back and score and get to 2, when you go the second overtime, it's our option. So we're going to play defense first. So they have to go back-to-back possessions and convert 2 touchdowns with the 2-point conversion and their choice on that second one. So it just felt like we took all the advantage away from them by playing defense first, but by scoring 2-point.
So at the end of regulation, what was going through my mind before you made the decision to kick was going back 2 years ago to Abilene Wiley when we took on Wall and scored late in the ball game, and you chose to go for 2.
Yeah, we on our gate, I didn't like how they were lining up. They gave us something, but they didn't give us the highest percentage play. And it's good from their part, and so with what they were giving us, it wasn't something I was willing to play and to do. And then, along with that other going for 2, I don't know if I voiced this, but I will. I think it took at that moment, at that time, it took a little off our kids. I didn't mind having it on me instead of being on our kids. We had a relatively new to varsity holder who had already fumbled once in the game. We have a deep snapper at that time. It's only done it 2 games. And we had a kicker that's got somewhat of a little bit of a tight groin. And, and I just thought there's 3 working parts there that I didn't want on them. I'd rather have, if something went bad, I'd rather have it on me. And so I just didn't feel like at that current moment that I wanted that pressure on them.
Final thoughts that I have on the Comanche game. Were you at all shocked that they lined up and went for the 2 with a pass play rather than giving it to Roberts?
Grateful. Let me say that. No, I don't know. Everybody should have, as I said earlier, 2 or 3 or 4 of those in your back pocket. We're one of those teams. We got about 8 or 10 of them, and we rep them. That play we ran has been repped, I don't know, 100 times this year, and that'll be the one time we run it this year. And ironically, we didn't have enough people on the field on the line of scrimmage. It should have been a penalty. And so just the things that went wrong, and we got out of there with the win. But no, they made a good call, and they had us confused a little bit. They uncovered their tight end, and Josh Woolen was playing that corner, and he saw it, so he kind of stayed halfway, and our safety's coming over late. And you go back and you look, and the guy's wide open in the back of the end zone, kind of. He's wide open if you can throw a lob ball, but they couldn't throw a lob ball because Josh and Caleb were closing on the play. Well, he's not, and he can't you couldn't throw a hard ball because there's bodies in between it. So kind of open, yes. Kind of covered, yes. We had kids step up and make plays that knocked it down, and so I don't know. There's just something they felt comfortable with. It was a good call, good design, good call, and just hopefully maybe we can say our kids out executed them.
All right, Coach, we're going to go ahead and take our first break. When we come back, we'll talk about some Thursday night football, also recap the other district games, the scores from last week. You're listening to the Morning Huddle here on KTX Sports 97.7. That brings up a good point. When they scored on their overtime possession, it appeared to me, or not, didn't appear to me, the far official on the sideline came running across and signaled touchdown. But the one nearest overruled him, so they had me all confused.
They had to play before. They didn't score.
But they didn't score.
Well, they confused our defense because we stopped on the play, too. It's one of those deals where they tried to jump us off sides, and we moved, but we didn't come across. Well, they snapped the ball. Well, we just everybody froze, but the quarterback, it's one of those situations. And then outmaneuvered one of us and got all the way down there. So it looked like a touchdown, but I guess they called him down.
Yeah, the guy on the near side, he overruled the other guy. But when they lined up, I thought they were going for their two-point conversion. I was already headed to a commercial break when I realized, oh, no, that was the touchdown. So, yes, I did confuse a lot of people back at home. But anyway, we got it right in the end. So, Coach, let's talk a little bit about other district games around the area last Friday night. Jim Ned gets a big, much-needed win to keep their swim playoff life available with a 50-29 win over Dublin.
Yeah, man, I don't know. Not saying Jim Ned's incapable, but don't know where that came from. Especially on the road. Hadn't seen them playing like that on the road. Dublin's had a much better year. I guess just a culmination of Dublin coming off that big win, going on to bye, and then just suffering a back-to-back loss to Comanche Clyde Nuss, which turned out to be it's probably going to turn out to be top 2 or 3 teams in the district. Just maybe took the wind out of their sails, and Jim Ned got some stuff clicking the other night and found the run game and put up a big night.
Breckenridge gets a shutout win over Merkel, 43-0. They're in the driver's seat for the 4th spot in the playoffs in District 4-2A.
Yeah, Breck's really playing well, and then we said all year is we said it for a month or 5-6 weeks as they start to get kids back. They're getting a little rhythm, and they got the quarterback back 2 weeks ago, and so he played. And then last week was his second game back, and so just going to be better. I heard he's playing real well. Then you throw in the fact that Merkel's one of those things. Last game into the year, they're not meaningless, and me being in it as a professional, know how important it is, but sometimes it's to a kid if you're not advancing to the playoffs, it's not important. And so I don't know if they played as hard or as good as they could, but turned out to be a one-sided game.
And of course Merkel's season came to an end last week with their bye week is this week, so they're done. Cisco gets a district championship with a win over Colorado City, 53-6.
Yeah, just kind of cruising along. I think part of their deal, as we may have talked about last week, is just getting their kids enough playing time to stay sharp. They've got Cisco's really good, and they probably got a district that's not quite as good this year, and so they got to try to find ways to keep their kids sharp and in shape.
All right, Comanche travels to Jim Ned. The scenario there is Comanche has a Comanche win, and that secures them 3rd place in District 4-2A. Jim Ned would have to either have a win by more than 15 over Comanche, or Dublin beat Breckenridge to reach the playoffs.
Yeah, and I want to tell you a couple truths. One is I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even looked at it. I could sit here and figure it out. I know we win and we're district champs, so I haven't looked at those other scenarios. I'm smart enough to know if Comanche wins, they get the 4 wins and no one else can catch them. So, and I would think, man, just take Comanche. The only reason in my mind that it wouldn't happen is if Comanche just some way can't get themselves back up after a back-to-back, just heartbreaking defeats.
And a couple of plays away from being 8.
But there's 2 plays. They're 2 plays away. They're 4th and goal from the 2 against Clyde, and which in a game they also had another 1st and goal opportunity they didn't score, and then they're a 2-point conversion with least extending the game against us. So those are tough, those are hard. But if they bounce back and overcome that, I think they're probably the better team.
Dublin travels to Breckenridge.
Yeah, and once again, I told somebody, Spence Southall, our trainer, and I were talking last night. He said, I wish they'd just go back to 1 team in the playoffs, and I said, I don't, He goes, but they don't ask me, and they're not asking me either. But I have noticed and seen this, increasing it to 4 has made teams play harder longer, and I do think that's good for kids.
And good for programs.
It's good for programs, and so Dublin can play week 10 this year with something to play for because theoretically they're alive. And so, I think that makes them, could be a more of a challenging game for Breckenridge as opposed to something maybe you saw last week when, Merkel was mathematically eliminated and, not put up as big a fight. So, both teams can get in. Obviously, Breckenridge is played better as of late and has a better chance. So that's where they're at on that.
Ballinger travels to Cisco.
Yeah, I think Ballinger's a playoff team. So, Cisco has got someone that's going to be in the playoffs coming their way, but I just not quite on that level right now. And so, Ballinger's probably trying to get ready and save what they can for the next week.
First round. And one other game that I threw on here this week just because everybody's been talking about Stanford at Anson. Y'all scrimmaged Anson earlier in the year. They're undefeated. Stanford's only lost to Cisco.
Yeah, I would have said, because I actually saw Stanford on video early in the year a couple of times, a couple of different opponents, and then played a scrimmage against Anson. I would have said probably through week 3 or 4 that Anson is clearly better. But I'm going to really change my tune on that. Stanford's really come on as of late and is playing extremely well. And I don't know if Stanford's got a ton of depth. Stanford has 32 seniors playing football right now.
Wow.
We suit up 22 we suited up less than 22 on certain nights. So they've got a ton of depth. So maybe they're able to, and older bodies to weather a long season and a few injuries where Anson wasn't a very deep team. And I hadn't talked to those guys, so they may be banged up somewhat. But as of late, Stanford's been playing better ball.
That's the exact same thing that Evan Wren had in the paper, that early in the season he had picked Anson, but he just changed his mind and
Really?
go to Stanford.
I'm not copying Evan, I can guarantee you that. But that's just what I think.
Yeah. Coach, let's talk about wrapping up the sub-varsity and junior high seasons last night. All 5 teams in action. Let's start off with the JV teams, how they fare.
JV went on the road, and man, I'm gonna tell you what, I didn't get to be there, but both of them ended the year on wonderful notes. Our JV Black, who just suffered through a few injuries and injuries that inadvertently affected them. We had to take one of the quarterbacks from them, and at one time I think we're 1-4. And then ended the year on a 4-game winning streak and ended up 5-4 at the winning record. And I'm telling you, with healthy and everybody there and a player or two here or there, would have been a 7-2 kind of team. But boy, the Clyde team we'd already lost to twice. The first game we had everyone healthy and had 7 turnovers and lost a close one. Really kind of shouldn't have, if you will. But then the second game they kind of dominated us, and then we went over there last night with pretty much the same team, and man, our kids and coaches just really outperformed them. Kind of changed some stuff and did a little bit of the old milk the clock. I think we ended the game on an 8-minute plus drive. It scored on 3rd and goal with the ball. 3rd and goal from the 2 with 7 seconds to go. Called a pass play, knowing if it didn't work, told the kid throw the ball out of the end zone, and we're going to kick a field goal last play to win, but actually ended up scoring with 2 seconds to go to win 28-21. So just a super way to end the year for those guys. Then our JV Red won 21-0 over Clyde. I was looking today, and I can't remember them now. I think our JV Red ended up having 5 shutouts on the year, and it had 1 or 2 more games where they gave up 6 points, and one of those games for certain I know was one of those last 2 minutes, kind of situation. Might have could have prevented that touchdown, but end of the year, super, played good defense and ran the ball well. And beat a big, I don't know how great they are, but beat a very big Clyde team, 21-0.
And then the junior high teams, they were in action here at Maverick Stadium.
Yeah, all kids, even high school kids, I'm sure it's the same way in college and the pros, when we talk to our kids about this, the teams that win in the playoffs, they're healthy. They got good players, obviously, but they also don't get tired of playing. They can understand that it's a daily grind. It's another Monday. It's another routine Tuesday. It's another win. They keep going through that. You see that with junior high kids, man. After about 6 weeks, it's on to the next thing. It really flew by this year, and you didn't get that feel from our junior highs. I've kind of got that feel before, but this year those guys just kept going and playing. Our black team ended the year with a win, an 8-6 win on an opening kickoff return for a touchdown and a safety. So an odd way to get their 8 points, but got their win and did a good job. Our 7th grade had a bad one last night. We got beat 30-6. And then our 8th grade got beat. I was going to say our 8th grade got beat 32-24. Their only loss on the year. Felt like we both just played pretty poorly. Our 8th grade was down 20-0 at half. Hadn't really done anything. Come out and got a little spark in the second half, and end up we had the ball with a chance to score when time ran out on about the 20. Just really don't feel like we played well. But something you see in our 7th and our 8th and our current freshmen right now is we have some little bitty skill kids. I mean, like little, in the 5 foot, 100-pound range, and they're our starters, and one of these days they're going to grow and they're going to get better and get bigger. And so Clyde had some big skill kids last night, and they took advantage of that and threw the ball up over our head. But just like our current junior class, I believe, were 2-7 as 7th graders. They went a 5-week span where they didn't score an offensive touchdown. Then they turned around as 8th graders, went 9-0, went 10-0 as freshmen. Then the ones that have been on the varsity in the last 2 years hadn't lost a district game in the last 2 years. So you just never know. Give your kids, as far as we play all those games we can, give them playing time, let them have time to grow and mature and change. And by the time they're 17 or 18, we feel like we do a good job with them.
All right, Coach, note back to the studio, we will not have a second break. We won't have a second break because we're running out of time. Let's move on to Clyde real fast here. The Bulldogs come to town. They're 5-0 in district. They lost 2 games during non-district when they were beat up. What do we look at offensively from the Bulldogs? They're going to run a spread against us.
They've found their running game. You said that earlier. They've only lost 2 games. One to a very talented Cisco team, and one to a Whitney team that's going to be 3rd in their district. That's in there with Grandview and Godley, and they did those 2 games without as much as up to 6 starters out. So other than those 2 weeks, they've played well. And unfortunately for us, offensively, they've gotten healthy and they found their run game. And that's the one thing that they've clicked the last 2 weeks at Dublin when that cold weather blew in. And then last week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, against Comanche, because they were on bye, they were able to play off of the running back that's back and use their quarterback in the run game as well. And so that's really what's put them over the top the last few weeks, is the ability to run, because they can always throw it. They've got 2 good receivers on the outside, number 2, number 7, and have made things work with them. It's really, they don't have a whole bunch of different concepts if you watch them. It's either a quick screen, throw the ball deep, or a run play. But they just, and a base run, and only about 2 of them. Maybe 3. They're very simple, but they're doing it well and they're playing at a high level.
And defensively, what will we see from them?
It's like I told our kids, in the 6 years that we've been here and played them every year, had 3 different head coaches, and they've all tweaked and adapted and changed what they've done offensively, but they haven't changed defense. And you see that through every time we've played them, and throughout the last 6 years, they're good defensively. They're going to play hard. They're hard-nosed kids. They're going to play tough, physical, and the more aggressive and bigger fight it is, the better they are.
Health-wise, how are we coming out of last week's game?
I think we're pretty good. We're hopefully a week closer to being everybody back and in more rhythm. You know, we should have, as far as health-wise, we should have everybody this week, and, you know, hopefully we're a little bit closer to 100%.
And, of course, the kickoff tonight, 7:30 out here at Maverick Stadium. I'd expect a big crowd, district championship on the line with the Bulldogs and the Mavericks.
I hope so. You know, it's a big night. It's fun for our kids. Like I try to tell the kids, you know, they're a little spoiled. We're a little spoiled. I say this week comes once every year, you know, and they say, yeah, this came this year and last year and the year before, you know, and try to put it in perspective. You know, I try to tell them for Clyde, it hasn't come since 2008. You know, it's been 5 years since they've had this night, you know, and these things, you work hard for them. Don't take them for granted, and you know, let's get out there and play this one like it's our last and do what we can with it, and we'll worry about next week as we get there.
And, Coach, good luck tonight, and next week we'll have a playoff edition of the Morning Huddle.
I hope so. I hope we can start rattling them off one at a time then.
One at a time. And I want to remind everyone, we're going to be broadcasting live from La Hacienda from 11 to 1 today. It's the grand opening and ribbon cutting out there, and free desserts. So come out and enjoy a lunch at La Hacienda, get a free dessert. Also, the fifth quarter tonight at the Leon River Cowboy Church. It's a bonfire with s'mores and hot chocolate. Thanks to my engineer back in the studio, Michael Crash Cockburn. Thanks to my guest, Brian Hewlett. Thank you for your time this time. Till next time, I'm Terry Slavens. Have a fabulous weekend, everyone.